Hello and welcome to the fifth and final part of our story writing for this week. I hope you've got a lovely shiny new story in front of you and that you managed to find somebody to do your editing for you yesterday. I've got my story in front of me. I wonder whether you were the same as me, because I even did a bit more editing as I was writing out my final copy. It's kind of never-ending editing, I think. I wonder whether when I read through what I've got, you will spot the changes that I've made. And I wonder if you could do me a favour, grab yourself a pencil or a pen. And if there are any other bits that you think I could do with changing, or you think you could do better with, please do jot them down as I am reading, and then we can send them in at the end. Brilliant. See you on the other side. Okay, I'm going to do my best to hold the camera steady while I read. Apologies if I get a bit shaky. So this is it. It's finally arrived. No more bombs, no more bloodshed, no more blackouts. The whole country is celebrating. So why do I feel so empty? I can see my brown leather suitcase in the corner of my bedroom. It's a bit more battered than when I left London, but sturdy and still with the evacuation tag attached to the handle. It's now packed with all my belongings, ready to take me back to my old life. Away from the countryside, away from fresh eggs for breakfast, away from Mrs. Mackenzie, and most of all, away from Jack. It's 5:30 in the morning, and although I've hardly slept, I feel wide awake. The sun is streaming through the stripy curtains, begging me to come outside, down to the woods one last time. I know I shouldn't, but I can't resist. So as quickly as I can, I get dressed and pad quietly past Mrs. Mackenzie's door, down the stairs and into the kitchen. I tiptoe past the table, laden with our cooking from yesterday. Typical of Mrs. M, that she's saved up all her rations to make a fancy tea for my mum, oatcakes and even chocolate cake. Just the scones to do this morning, because they need to be fresh, my ducks. Hey, that's a good idea. I can pretend I'm being helpful and go and collect some wild garlic from the woods for Mrs. M's famous savoury scones. The perfect excuse. Next thing I know, I'm strolling along the shady path, the powerful pong of wild garlic hitting my nostrils. Its flowers aren't out yet, but there are so many bluebells carpeting the ground it's difficult to see anything else. What's that amongst the blue? My eyes adjust to the dappled light, and I hone in on a small yellow flower, its petals outstretched like a solitary star in the evening sky, alone in a sea of blue. I still need to find that garlic. The smell is all around, but where is it? Moving down the path, all I can see is bluebells. There must be some here somewhere. I step off the path, trying not to trample the delicate flowers, and head off into the undergrowth, where at last I see a huge patch of the familiar fragile leaves, broader than the others. I need to get this right, because bluebells are poisonous. Carefully selecting the tastiest looking leaves, I collect a handful and make my way back to the path. Annoyingly, when I get there, I can hear voices coming from the direction of home. I'm not in the mood to talk to anyone right now and don't want any awkward questions, so what to do? Not really any hiding places to hand, so I guess I'll just need to carry on my way. Striding forward, I don't want them to catch me up. I remember where I am, nearly at the cricket ground. If I'm quick, I can scoot across the outfield before they see me, and maybe, just maybe, Jack might be there. In no time at all, I'm approaching the brick-built pavilion. Yes, I can hear rustling behind the building. My heart leaps and my pace quickens as I round the corner, only to see a blackbird disappear into the cover of the dense bushes. It was too much to expect. I am, and always will be, alone. I slump to the ground, not caring about the mud on my newly washed trousers. I shut my eyes, put my head in my hands and take a deep breath. Garlic! Opening my eyes again, I see the limp leaves squashed in my sweaty palms, wilted, completely useless. I'm struggling to keep the tears away now. I could blame it on the garlic, but I know that's not the real reason. Behind me, I hear the unmistakable call of a tawny owl. 3 years ago, I wouldn't have had a clue. Now I can even tell you it's a male owl, that distinctive to-wit. Wait a minute, though. It's morning. What is an owl doing out at this time? Very strange. maybe I was hearing things. No, there it is again, but louder now. I wipe my eyes and turn my head towards the hedges, scanning for a glimpse of the creature. There's a sudden movement next to a holly bush, and then a yelp as a figure emerges into the light, struggling to extricate himself from the snags and prickles of the holly. "All right, mate?" he asks cheerfully, trying to get a thorn out of his finger with his teeth. "I am now."
Thank you for listening. Did you spot any of the edits that I'd made? I wonder if you did. I did find it, although it's a bit scary reading out your own stories, I find it quite helpful because you work out particularly if you've got the paragraphs in the right place, because the story flows better if you have. I don't think mine are too bad, but there's one bit I might change again if I feel like it. You'd think we've nearly finished, but actually there's 2 more tasks for us to do. And the first one is to review what we think we've done well, what things we'd like to change maybe if we were doing it again, and what our next steps are.
Okay, so if we were at school and we'd just been doing a piece of writing, we'd probably have a marking ladder to go through to help us review. Can't really do that for this one because we are all going to be at different stages. There'll be some things we're already good at, some things that we know we need a bit more practice on. So I'd like to use 2 stars and a wish and next step things to evaluate our own work. But I would like you to think about it really carefully. So don't just write in the 2 stars, I got all the capital letters right, if you know you'd have got them right already. So what I'd like you to think about is 2 things that you are really proud of in this piece of writing. It could be capital letters if that's something you're not very good at usually. It could be you're just proud that you have taken the time to get through and you've got 2 pages of story. It might be that you've used some amazing vocabulary. So which are the 2 things you're particularly proud of? And then one thing that you think you would like to improve. So a wish, something you would do differently if you were doing it again, or something you look at and you think, it's not quite right, but I know I need to work on it. And then thirdly, I would like you to have a think about what the next steps might be after this time. Put it on pause now if you don't mind, and then I'm going to go in, have a little think and share with you what my 2 stars, a wish and next steps are, and then we'll finish up. Right, so here are my 2 stars, a wish and my next steps. I'm going to start off with the 2 stars. So my first one is the storyboard. I usually, when I'm doing a piece of story writing, I just pile straight into the writing, if I'm honest. I'm not really much of a planner. But I have to say, I'm forcing myself to do the storyboard this time. I found it really helpful, and I think my story is better because of it. So that's something I will use again if I'm doing, next time I'm doing a story writing, and I'm quite pleased that worked well. I'm also, and this is partly from the feedback from the editing from my daughter, I think the sort of show not tell bits that I did worked pretty well. So I'm quite proud of that. So those are my 2 stars. My wish, again, this comes from the editing. I sort of knew already, but I know I put too many ellipses in. Mrs. Hornby tells me that when she's giving me feedback on the reports that I'm writing. So I still need to make sure I get that sorted, and I need to watch out for those long sentences. I do them a bit too often. Okay, my next steps. Okay, so I think I struggled to get to an end with this. I got a bit carried away, and it wasn't really how I was intending to end this story. But I felt I couldn't do any more this week, so I reckon this could be a chapter of something longer, and I might maybe extend it as I'm going if I come back to it. I'm also going to go back to my planning to have a look for other story ideas. I quite liked the idea when we were talking about the characters of somebody running away, and although I magpied that a little bit in this story, I'd quite like to maybe do an exciting spy type story with those sorts of things. As you might remember, we started this story with just a photograph, a photo that I'd taken on a walk of mine. And I'm quite amazed at what I've come up with from just that. And I'm wondering whether one of your next steps might be to take a camera or your phone with you next time you are on a walk outside and just take a few pictures and then come back later and do the same process we've just done and see where that picture might take you. You can also use recordings as well as photos. They work just as well. In fact, sounds can sometimes be even more evocative. Okay, so that's our reviewing finished. So the last thing to do for our writing this week is for you to share some of your amazing work with us, if you'd be so kind. You can do that by sending any documents to the English email address, which is english@oakfieldacademy.org. We'd love to receive your finished stories, love to hear recordings of you reading your stories, and also any planning that you've done. So any of those storyboards, any of the spider diagrams, particularly if they're one of the things that you're especially proud of, one of your stars. Also, I would like, if you did manage to get any feedback on my story, I'd love to have any of that. So really looking forward to hearing and seeing any of this amazing work. Thanks for listening this week. Have a fantastic weekend and look forward to seeing you all soon. Bye.